Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at The Silencer issue 4. As usual, this is part of the New Age of Heroes line that was spawned out of Dark Knight's Metal. And the cover is by John Romita Jr., but the interior art is not, which I felt a little cheated by, I'm not gonna lie, because I really like Romita Jr.'s art way better than this guy. There's some really cool scenes in this one, but it's definitely not the same, and some of the larger, more pin-up frames are fine. Other times, some of the smaller images are kind of missing detail, and some of the faces look really weird. Like, she's supposed to do this hit on this guy named Guile, and his face looks like it changes slightly throughout. And when they showed Honor's husband a few times, I didn't recognize him at first. I had some problems with that. We'll get into more of that. This is mostly a flashback issue. Honor is remembering her time with Talia and the time she said, hey, I won out, and Talia's like, I have one last job for you. And then it jumps around between then and now. We get this thing with a nosy neighbor, and Honor's cover is that she's gonna be an Uber driver. She's also trying to fix a dryer, and it's not working, so she's beating the crap out of it, so they're gonna have to get a new one. Or maybe it's a front load washer, I don't know. So anyways, so the guy and the kid are gonna go do that, and she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go work. And then it flashes back to her doing the hit on this guy. She didn't see any protection on him, and she was asking Talia what's going on. It turns out that he's an accountant for Leviathan, but Leviathan isn't supposed to kill its own, so she ends up running into his protection, which is an independent contractor known as Deathstroke. And when Deathstroke is your bodyguard, you should feel pretty safe. But she manages to get the better of him, and he says, you're gonna start a war by eating your own like this. And they end up setting a gas main off and exploding the house, which probably killed the guy's wife and kid. And of course, now he's come back to tell her that he told her so, and she's got to face off Deathstroke next issue. This issue jumped around a little bit, a little too much for my taste, but it was still a really well written issue, and we get a lot more interactions between her and other people, not just Deathstroke. It's a lot of other people. There's a guy named Aftermarket who sells weapons to assassins, and he really wants the war to be resolved because it's bad for business. And we get to see a little bit more of her family and her interactions with Talia from the time. I think they're leading up to her being double crossed by Talia. So this Victor Bogdanovich, pretty good artist, but I have a few issues with the way he does faces and background detailing. Occasionally some of the panels looked a little lazy, but he does a really good Deathstroke. And Silencer looks pretty good through the whole thing too. So Dan Abnett wrote it. Great work as always. I'm a huge fan of Dan Abnett. I'll pick up just about any book he writes. Mike Spicer did the colors. Great job. Tom Napolitano on letters. Tom Napolitano's like practically a legend at this point because he letters just about everything I read. John Romita Jr., Sandra Hope, and Dean White did the cover. Assistant editor was Andrew Marinero, and Paul Kaminsky editor. Marie Javins did the group editing. So all around a solid book. The interior art I didn't care for as much as I would have if Romita Jr. had done it, but it was still good. It wasn't my favorite, but it mostly because of the comparison. You know, you're comparing a new guy I haven't really heard of to John Romita Jr. It's kind of a weird comparison. I still would recommend the book. I thought it was a fun read, and this continues to be one of my favorites of the New Age of Heroes from DC. This and the Terrifics are easily my favorites. Pick this up if you get a chance. I highly recommend the series. The sales aren't doing well, which surprises me, because this is a really action-adventure book. There's always combat in this. So if you like action books, and you like movies like John Wick or The Expendables, check this out. It's got a lot of fun to it. It's not a heavy, serious book. It's just a nice action-adventure. But that'll do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. And please consider hitting like, share, and subscribe. And we hope to see you on the next one.